in my whole career, to win the Olympic Games is obviously the pinnacle of anyone's career. And I think if that's not your aspiration, then I don't know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I think winning Commonwealth Games, winning the Olympic Games, and basically, there's David Morgan was the best, or is the best athlete from Wales who's ever lived in weightlifting, and if I could beat his I think it was like five goals or something. If I can surpass that, then and go down in history, then yeah, even better. Like, but just to win the Commonwealth Games several times and place and win the Olympic Games is my ultimate goal. It's hard because, you're paying your insurance at the end of the month and you don't know how you're going to do it. And I don't want to get a part-time job. Like, I choose not to now based on the fact that it will put some jeopardy on my weightlifting. Like, and this isn't me like crying about it, because that's life, innit? That's what people have to do. But I choose not to now based on the fact that I want to live the way I'm living now until the games. But in order to do that, I have to be happy with having ball. So at the moment, I got support from Welsh Weightlifting. I got my parents' support as much as possible, but the rest is down to me. So it's like it's hard and it's a lot of pressure, because you want this to pay off. You want this all to work for you in the end. And I think if I can be successful at the games, opportunities will come like after that. And I think my parents are believing in that as well. So that's what it's all about at the moment.
So it's fair to say that you're gambling quite a lot at the moment on a successful games.
Yeah.
Hence why it's so important to have a good result.
Yeah. I started playing rugby when I was about 11 years old, which was quite late in terms of, like, my mates were playing rugby quite early on, so I was quite late into it. My fitness was low, my overall strength capacity was terrible, and I was just a plodder around the pitch.
So originally, I opened a gym and no one's here. So he's doing some rugby, and it makes sense that he's doing a bit of training. So we do some basic kettlebell work and press-ups and pull-ups, and I think whatever he was like 11 or 12 at the time.
My uncle came to one of my games, who's now my coach, and he noticed this it was terrible how I was playing. So on my 12th birthday, I think it was my 12th or my 13th birthday, he bought me a 16 kilo kettlebell.
He started weightlifting, I feel, probably sort of just halfway through being 12 years old, and we were doing some squats and some deadlifts and a little bit of like high intensity interval stuff, so to ally with his rugby, and then it gradually fell into weightlifting.
My uncle put a bar in my garage and taught me how to clean, was his first thing. And I couldn't get my head around it. Like, every time he came to my house, it was like once a week or maybe a bit more frequent. He showed me the clean, and he'd have to remind me everything about it every time. And then he showed me the snatch, and the same thing applied. And he showed me how to jerk, and for some reason I got the jerk in my garage. I got it like first time he showed me, I was like, I can get this. And every time he'd come back, I'd fail to snatch, I'd fail to clean up, I'd get the jerk, which is...
It's like a story of your weightlifting career now,
yeah, it is, isn't it, right?
I remember taking him to, it was a British under-18s in the Empire, and we went down there. I said, do you want to come and watch some weightlifting? I'm going to watch the British Championships under-18s on Saturday. And he went, just whatever. So we drove down, and that was our first viewing of weightlifting.
You've played rugby for Wales.
Yeah.
What age group was that?
Under 16s. They would narrow it down to a 23-man squad for the test match against England, which was in Wales. And I got selected for that. I was on the bench at I was a 16, benching at hooker. I came on at half time and played the test match game, the capped game.
Yeah.
And that was my last game of rugby.
So for him to win his cap and then have all of the interest from under 18s, Wales level, Cardiff Blues level, there needed to be something very large on the horizon that was happening, and that was the Youth Commonwealth Games in Samoa. And that was a big deal because he'd done his rugby, he ticked that box as an athlete. He got his Welsh cap, and then all focus was towards winning the Commonwealth Youth Games in Samoa.
And I went there and I said to myself, like, if this doesn't go well, I'm going to pursue rugby. Like, that was what was in my head. And I went there, I got second or something. I won a silver. Lost to a New Zealand boy by 3 kilos.
What he realised was that having achieved a non-gold, that he could have won that competition if he'd have dedicated himself to the sport. And so I think if you're an athlete who has the conviction to be the best, then a silver is not a gold, and you compromise your success because you're splitting yourself into 2 pieces.
So that was a real wake-up call. I was like, I need to put all my eggs into weightlifting now, because I realised like I was potential in the sport, but I wasn't realising my full potential until then. So I completely quit rugby. I quit my school, my club, district, international, everything, to pursue weightlifting.
Obviously the goal is to win, but what's the plan leading up to the Commonwealth Games? What do you see as going to happen if you predict it?
Here's my forecast, that we've got the Welsh seniors in 4 weeks. Yeah. We would like to express 325 there, 45.80, and take 3 snatches and 2 clean jerks. Not really bothered with the last one.
So don't take it, or you're not bothered about the number?
Don't take it. Just not take it. Because like 325 would be a place where, having worked on what we've worked on, 325 would be good enough.
What's your goals for the Welsh seniors? What's the plan? Without revealing too much, obviously this is going to be broadcast after. After, yeah. So you're not revealing anything.
So it's not. We say it's not an important comp for us. Like all the training is to the games. Everything is about the games. This comp is more of just a test of water, see where we are, see if we've got any weaknesses we need to address, any technical changes we need to make. Like exposure to, I think getting 145 snatch would be a good stepping stone to the games, and breaking the 180 mark on the clean and jerk is important for me. So to do that at the seniors, That would give me a 325 total. You know, I think that would be a good place to work from. You know, but it's not really the thought, the seniors at the moment. We're training towards the games, and our whole training now is geared up to the games. It's not, the Welsh seniors isn't even taken into account.
Was there a particular moment when you were training together in the last 2 years where you sort of thought to yourself, this is the real deal now, this is not just an athlete who's like doing weightlifting for the sake of weightlifting, but a Commonwealth Games, an international, potentially Olympian? Was there a moment at all, or did it sort of creep up?
For me, it wasn't a moment in training, it was a moment in competition. Welsh Open 2016, I think, where he hit 160 for the first time. At the time, 160 on the clean and jerk was sort of quite big weight. No, like as a training group, none of us have ever hit it before. None of us had ever sort of seen it hitting in our own competitions before. And he went from, he didn't do very well on the snatch. He hit, I think, 115 on the snatch.
Yeah.
So he went from being in third to getting gold in the seniors at the Welsh Open in the 94s with a 160 clean and jerk, which he was 5k over anything he'd even cleaned before. And I think that, it's a very good video from yourself where he just turns to the crowd and just sort of
the arms spread wide,
gives it the old gladiator.
He always comes in highly motivated. There's never been a day where he's not been excited to get his hands on the bar, and a day where any time he comes in, you think, is he going to snatch 140? You know, is he going to hit a PB? He just seems always up for it at any given point in his training, and it's quite motivating to be in the gym with him when he's doing that, and it really spurs you on as well to lift heavier, to lift faster, whatever it might be, and he's always there to support you as well. For someone he's obviously an exceptional athlete, but he really does give back to his training partners at the same time. He's always supporting you. It doesn't matter what weight you're lifting. You know, it could be nothing, say, in comparison to what Jordan's lifting, but he'll still support you as though he just hit a PB himself.
So, Lauren, obviously you're one of Jordan's training partners. What would you say is his biggest strength as a weightlifter?
I think for Jordan perspective, obviously he's a strong kid, but his main strength, I would say, is his mental toughness. I would say when he approaches a bar, especially when he gets heavy, he's got his things about him where he's not scared about the weight, which is, I think, his main strength in the sport, is not being scared about lifting new weights, and obviously when he's above his PBs, which I think makes him a great lifter.
With Jordan being such a young lifter, what do you think he's capable of? Obviously, you've got the Birmingham Games.
Yeah.
Do you think he's capable of going to Olympic Games?
Yes. Well, I think it all comes down to the next 3 months for him, and I think this first game are crucial for him. He needs to put his name out there. Obviously, he's well renowned within the British community, but he needs to be renowned within the Commonwealth community, and obviously then on the next stage on European community.
Okay, so what happened with the Welsh seniors? Obviously, you were a little bit ill.
Yeah.
You had to pull out of the competition. Can you talk to us a little bit about what happened?
So, New Year's Day, I woke up with a pretty bad flu, and it sort of progressed from there. Really, I had a bad case of flu for about 2 weeks. And I was throwing up, and I lost about I lost about 8 kilos in body weight over that time, and then it took another like 2-3 weeks to get back into training properly. So by the seniors, I wasn't in a state of readiness at all. Like, I probably would have produced like, I don't know, maybe a 120 snatch tops and then 140 clean jerk, which was of no value to the progression that we want to look for in the lead up to the games. So we just knocked it on the head really, and started a phase of training as soon as I got back from the flu, peaking later than we would at the seniors, and it's worked out better in the long run. But it was difficult not to know where we would have been at the seniors. Like, that was a good marker for us, but it is what it is.
Was it quite difficult pulling out as well, obviously, because you're not known for pulling out of competitions? You haven't. I don't think you've done it in the past, actually.
No,
that's it.
Yeah, so like it was difficult because I wanted to prove my fitness to Team Wales and all Sakkas and whatever. Before the flu, I was in really good shape, like very, very good shape, and it was difficult because I looked like a cop out, and that's the way I would have viewed it as an athlete, as an outsider, and that's the way that it does look. But it is what it is. It's a victim of circumstance, and you've got to just get on with it. Like.
Was all about Commonwealth Championships last year.
Yeah.
And building up for that. Was that seen as the most important qualifying competition for the Commonwealth Games, or did you know that there was the European Juniors around the corner potentially?
I had no idea about the European Juniors. So the comp after the match was the British Seniors, and I popped out my collarbone in a weird squatting accident. That sounds terrible. In like this weird squat, I popped out my collarbone. I was going for like a 220 treble or something, and it slipped off my back. I had this big pop in my collarbone. So we pulled out the British, but with confidence that we were going to be selected for the Commonwealth Champs, and that was important. Because the Welsh criteria was like, if you lift well in this, and if you rank, it's a ranked event, and if you rank in it, then you are going to be going to the games. So that was a really important comp, and it was only when I got there, did my competition, and I met Dave Sawyer that night. I had a few beers with Dave after my comp, and he said, we're going to Albania for the European under-20s in about a month's time. I'm going to put your name forward, because I think he was impressed with my total at the comp and whatever. And it was only when I got there I realised it was a ranking event for the under-20s. So I thought, if I can edge my bets just a little bit, just get a few kilos on my total, that's going to push me up in the rankings, and it did.
Yes, you had a really good day in Albania.
Yeah.
Another 5 for 6 day. What did you get in Commonwealth Championships? 5 for 6 as well?
I got 4 for 6. In the championships, it was a weird one. I think training went well, but we tapered a bit too soon. My head wasn't in it because my deadlift's quite poor, or was quite poor. So every time I pulled off the floor, it felt heavy. I went 135, 130, 135, miss at 140, and then 170, 175, and miss at 180. So I wasn't too upset with it because I was happy with the fact that I had 320 on the bar. Mm-hmm. Like I had 140 snatch on the bar. I had the opportunity to make it. I had the opportunity to make 180. I just didn't execute on the day, but I was happy. I was happy with that.
Every single competition, all bar one, he's lifted more in competition than he ever has done in training. And I understand that may get a little bit less as you get more qualified, but he's just that kind of lifter. You know, just put it on, let me lift it. So what we learned from Australia last Commonwealth Championships is that my role as his coach is to give him confidence to lift anything. His job as the weightlifter is to lift anything. And I felt personally that my role as his coach hadn't been fulfilled because he didn't have the confidence to pull 80. And so that, I suppose, embarrassment is something that we don't accept. Do you get me? And I don't accept that. Like, I criticize myself for not giving him that abundance of confidence, because I know that his mentality, once confident, will lift everything.
Going to Albania, I took smaller jumps strategically. Just I sat down with my uncle a week before the comp, and I said, look, I'm thinking 33, 37, 40 as opposed to 30, 35, 40, just to give myself a bit more. I can hit a PB on the second attempt, and I can go for a 40 on the third, and it's just a bit more, you know, I can be a bit more clinical and a bit more consolidating a total in it, just building a total. And that is exactly what happened. I was a lot more calm in Albania, didn't put any pressure on myself, despite there being the same amount of pressure as the championships. Went there with a cool head. Like in Australia, I locked myself in my room all week, pretty much. Didn't see any of Australia. You know, I'd go to breakfast, go in my room, sit down, go to lunch, and I literally just spent all week doing that until the comp, and it just left me a lot of time with my thoughts, a lot of time thinking of how important the comp is, and you know, the questions like, what if I don't hit these numbers, you know, and once that starts rattling in your brain, then you're fighting a losing battle. So I thought, I'll go to Albania with a completely different strategy mentally. And I went there. It was good. There was a good group of boys going. I didn't think about the comp. I just had a laugh with the lads. Didn't do anything that was going to jeopardise the comp. But in the same token, I wasn't on athlete mode, like thinking about the comp until the day. Mm-hmm. And I think that gave me. I was very relaxed on comp day, walking onto the platform, cool as you like. Made my lifts, didn't celebrate, just came off. And it was about being clinical and executing my lifts. And it paid off. Like I hit a 140 snatch, hit a 172 clean and jerk, which although wasn't as good as the one in Australia, like I was just happy with the day. I was happy with the I hit 312, which brought me up a ranking, I think.
And it was your first time representing GB?
Yeah. So I could have let that get to my head. Like I remember thinking, like, this is my first GB comp. There's a lot of very good athletes around me. I need to live up to this. And then I just nipped that in the bud, nipped that thought in the bud. Like, there's a reason why you're here. Just do what you do, and carry forward that approach that you intended on doing prior to Albania. You know, just being relaxed, not thinking too much about it, not thinking of, the whole you're lifting for GB. Just think you're lifting for yourself, and just, do it for yourself, enjoy yourself, and that was my thought. And I mean, the feeling of wearing a GB singlet was just incredible. But you just use that buzz on the day to get you where you need to be. Yeah. You don't use it through the lead up. You think about yourself, and then you put on the singlet on comp day, and then you realise your worth, and you go for it then.
come on. Good boy. Come on.
Jordan, what are you doing today?
Snatch. Weightlifting.
What kind of snatch? Maximum?
Yeah, well, whatever I can, probably about 160 or something.
So, what are your plans for the rest of the year coming up then?
So my main focus is now to train for the rest of the year, and then hopefully get selected for the European Juniors in October. And that's a good spell of training then from April to October, where I can make some ground and make some changes.
Yeah. What are your, by the European Juniors then in October, what's going to be your goals for that competition in terms of numbers or performance or?
We haven't really spoken about numbers. We're looking more consistency on the platform. We want to get 5 or 6 out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that obviously that's everyone's goal, but we want to make that pretty crystal. A 3 for 6 performance at the games. We want to move away from that and become less of that lifter and more of a 6 for 6 lifter. So anywhere between the 330 maybe, you know, 45, 85, 50, 85, something like that.
So a PB tuck with more successful lifts, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you, it seems like there's a bit of a side just not really happy about how the games went, even though it was a personal best title, personal best jerk. Are you happy with your performance and happy with how the games went, or?
Upon reflection, there are aspects I'm happy with. I'm not entirely happy with the way in which I lifted. For some reason, through my warm-up on the snatch, my warm-up on the snatch was excellent, and then I got to 30, and that's when things started to break down technically.
Yeah.
And then 35 was again not a good lift, so it was quite stressful then going onto the platform, and it was one of those lifts where had I have had a better warm-up, it would have been, you know, just going through the motions, hitting your first attempt and looking confident and comfortable. But there was an element of panic to my lifts, so I was just focusing on just getting the bar over my head at all costs.
Yeah.
And I think you can see that on the lifts. You know, you can see that I'm running the bar out, I'm pulling early, I'm just trying to get the bar over my head in any way so I don't bomb out at the games.
Yeah.
And I think that was detrimental to the rest of my snatches. You know, allowing my technique to break down early. That then affected my other 2 snatches. And then the clean and jerks, similar sort of thing. My jerks were fine. My cleans weren't playing ball. But again, it was one of those things where I was just going to go on the platform and rip it, and you know, I wanted to get 180 minimum. So I think I handled the circumstances well, and I lifted the most my body could have ever lifted on that day.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed with where my physical capacity was on the day, but.
Yeah. So what did you learn about from your experience, and what would you do differently next time? Obviously the Games is now in Birmingham 2022.
I wouldn't put so much pressure on myself, because I had 150, 190 in my head the whole time, on comp day, every time, you know. And I think the moment I snatched 135 in the back room poorly, I came to the realisation that 150 was not impossible. Well, yeah, very unrealistic on the day. You know, and I don't think it was a bad thing to be optimistic and have high aims, because you're better off being optimistic than conservative in your lifts. However, you need to be realistic on the day. You know, when you're warming up, you've got to be like, right, I obviously don't feel as good as I normally do. Adrenaline will get me through the competition. However, set your sights one lift at a time. Don't chase numbers. That's what I do differently. I just take each lift as it comes. Set my openers in place, but then let the coaches do the calls from there.
Yeah. And has your life changed at all since you got back?
Well, sort of. To be honest with you, in Willpower, you know, as soon as you get back to the gym, you're just another athlete. So you can't really ride on going to the Commonwealth Games at all. Being an athlete from Willpower, you just get on with it. But outside the gym, there's been a few more opportunities coming up, and you know, that's enjoyable. And I'm getting a few rewards for the hard work I put in the lead up. But yeah, apart from that, in terms of actually, you know, status in the gym or anything, there's nothing like that. Just back to it.
I've known of him for about sort of 6 or 7 years, but I'd say we've been best friends since year 10. So that would be about 4 years ago. 4 years.
So, you've supported Jordan and seen him over his journey. At what point did you realise that, you know, he wasn't just into his weightlifting, he was going to be a potential superstar?
Well, I think it was a moment, and I was doing my exams and I was thinking, God, this isn't very good, revising every day. I thought what Jordan was doing at that time, I think he was training the sort of 6s in the morning. He was doing it every single day, and I just thought, that's dedication like I've not seen, and I just thought he's going somewhere.
Was it quite weird seeing your really good friend competing at the Commonwealth Games? Like, you're sat there and it's someone that you've known for years, sitting and watching them on the telly. Do you know what I mean?
It was absolutely brilliant, because they mugged the server, didn't they? So we had to go on VPN or something. So I didn't actually get to watch it, but our other friend Charlie described everything that happened. So I felt like Charlie and I shared that moment together, and it was absolutely amazing.
And you had a bet, didn't you?
I did, and he's lost me a fiver. He owes me a fiver.
Well, what odds did you get on him?
I think he's 25 to 1, so I would have been raking in a bit of cash. They let me down.
So he owes you a fiver, yeah?
Yes.
How did it feel to watch Jordan compete at the Games after seeing all the work that he put in and supporting him through that?
I hate watching him compete. I'm not very good. I get really stressed, very emotional, and I don't actually watch. I'm there, but I've always got a pillow.
So you just sat there like that with the Games?
Through the whole thing, always have. And it's like I've got this thing in my head now that as long as I don't actually look, he'll be fine. Yeah. So in the Commonwealth Games, there was loads of us. There was about 17 of us in a room, and I sat on the stairs quite a bit at the time.
Was this in the 5 o'clock in the morning or something as well?
This one was about 1 o'clock in the morning, I think. Yeah.
What advice, as his mum, would you give to him when it comes to his sporting career?
I just think he needs to go with his passion and what he loves. He's a very clever boy, always has been. And I think he's chosen well, so I think he needs to go to university and do his thing and get his degree, and just follow what he loves to do, which is sport, I suppose.
I applied for uni because I thought basically I better get my life on track.
Yeah.
So I put an application in for uni, which I've now accepted. So that's changed. Also thought it's time to move out. I'm 19. I'm a grown up. So I spoke to my mate Theo, and here we are. We're at the new gaff now. I also got a part-time job at Watches of Wales, my sponsor. Shout out to you, Paul. So yeah, just spending my Saturdays at the moment selling watches and cashing checks.
So you start uni in September, yeah?
Yeah.
What are you studying?
It's grand, strength conditioning, rehabilitation and massage.
So what made you make that decision to go back to, well, not go back, but go to uni? Did you always plan to do it, but the games got in the way, or what was it?
So before the games, everything was about the games leading up to it. So I couldn't really have any external goals apart from just training well. And then I got back from the games with the same intentions of just training full time. A, realised it wasn't financially achievable, but B, realised how much time I actually had in between training sessions. So I thought it would be quite cool to pursue some sort of academic, pursue a degree. So just started inquiring about that and ended up getting an offer from Cardiff Met.
And that was a scholarship offer, yeah?
Well, currently I'm applying for a scholarship, so I'm meeting about that, but it's an unconditional offer and all that sort of thing.
So if you do get a scholarship, what's your end of the bargain as such? Obviously, presumably it's based around the weightlifting, yeah? Yeah, so it's based on, unfortunately, weightlifting isn't in the Bucks League, but what I am able to do is lift for the uni, representing the uni at the World Unis and the University Games and these sort of comps, which compensate for the sport not actually being in Bucks. Yeah.
So that's what I'll be offering the university, and then in return I just get, I suppose I get bursaries and money off my my student fees, and I get full access to their gym, which is ideal for if I'm training in the morning before a lecture and all that sort of thing. So makes life easy. And I'll just be I'll be constantly socialising with people with the same sort of head as me, metaphorically speaking, because physically speaking I've got the biggest head in Wales.
Did you ever have to push him?
No, nobody can push Jordan. Jordan does what Jordan wants to do. Jordan, never pushed him. Tried to push him with his schoolwork. There was his last year of A levels. Unfortunately, was the build up to the Commonwealth, and that was really hard as a mum, because his number one was his training and the Commonwealth, whereas I really wanted him to do well at his A levels. Which didn't go as planned, but I suppose he was following his heart.
As you know, the documentary is called Willpower.
Yes.
And one of the things I'm exploring with everyone who I interview during the process is what willpower means to them. So can you just give us a sort of 1 minute explanation of what it means to you, and why, not why you called your gym Willpower, you know what I mean, as in what is willpower, what defines it for you?
Willpower is turning up every day and being the best you can be.
In anything?
Period.
If I were to say to you willpower, can you just tell the camera what the first thing that springs into your mind?
Craziness. I think, if you want to be a good weightlifter, and it comes back to the first point where you ask me what is the best about Jordan in weightlifting, and you have to have that mental toughness, but I think it's linked to being also crazy to go under that amount of weight when you lift. So obviously, willpower of the gym, willpower of the words, is all about getting that attitude towards the bar, lifting it as much as you can, but also keeping that craziness about the fact that you're going to lift big weights. So yeah, craziness is a good word to attach to or link to willpower.
Awesome. If I say the word willpower, what's the first thing that springs into your mind? Don't think too much about it.
Well, just because it has to be this place and what this place does for people. No matter where people come from and what level they're at, if they stay here for any length of time, they go beyond what anyone thought they would like. They go beyond what their own aspirations were when they came here. The amount of progress people have seen from being at this place and being in the atmosphere that this place creates, it just creates progress, really. Yeah.
But for me, it's like a family. When we've all come in from different. Like I came in from CrossFit initially because you introduced me to it. Jordan's obviously started from the beginning, but it doesn't matter which avenue you found your way here. You suddenly become integrated in something that's more than just about the training. It's sort of the support that you get from here, coming here. It's quite hard to describe really the feeling that you get, and it's sort of why I would, even though I now live in London or I've been staying in my parents now, I want to drive here and be here to be with everyone, to train with them, just because of that sense of community that you get from being here, and it's a real motivator for your training to be here as well for that.
There isn't another place in Wales or probably Britain, I don't think, where people put in the miles to get there on a daily basis to go and train.
And then when they get here as well, the attitude that everyone comes with
and there's a reason for that. Yeah.